24, I'd been able to earn enough through financial sales at Wells Fargo Bank. I was the youngest vice president in the company's history.
What do you think of the common ones, that those who arrive at the destination of financial freedom, what are the attributes?
I barely graduated high school. In high school, I was making more money than teachers were making. One investment lost me $400 million. And as my wife reminds me, you have to have $400 million to lose $400 million.
How did you find your way to Harvard? Tell us how this happened.
It's a long story. The more interesting story is really how I found my way to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then how I had numerous encounters and exits and working with founders. And then through that, entered back into college. Because, James, I barely graduated high school. I mean, my sister who raised me, my parents were gone, was joking when I got hooded for my doctorate at Northeastern University, also out of Boston. She was joking. She said, I really did not think you were going to graduate high school and to have gone on and do all these other things. And part of that was, in high school, I was making more money from my business than teachers were making. Yeah. So I didn't see much value in going to school. I was skiing a tremendous amount. I was running businesses at the time. Yeah. And that had been kind of my course way. So
you felt you were entrepreneurial as a teenager?
No, I felt I was entrepreneurial as a small child.
You did?
Yeah.
Is there something in the wiring? What is happening, do you think? Because not everybody feels that way. Some people find their way to entrepreneurship. You apparently were wired this way. Is there something that occurred that made you feel this way?
So my grandfather had discovered one of the largest mines in Nevada.
Okay.
And so he was silver, gold, and tungsten.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in Tonopah, Nevada initially, and then how we got to Lake Tahoe was in the early 1900s. He discovered a mine up there. So that's how we got to northern Nevada.
Okay.
So he was extremely, extremely wealthy. That money was lost, as it oftentimes is, by the next generation. And so that was gone. And so I grew up in poverty.
Wow.
And so between, my parents left when I was early. My mom was ill. My dad left. And so my oldest sister was raising me. She was 9 years older than I. I was 12 years old. But by that time, I had already started to make money because my mom couldn't sustain heat on in the house.
Wow.
And so the only way you can do that as a 10, 11, 12-year-old is to hustle and get out there and work.
Yeah.
And so by 12, 13, 14, I was having football players work for me as we were doing various jobs for homeowners, and that grew into business.
Interesting. What type of jobs? Just curious.
Well, it started with everything from shoveling the sidewalks, which sounds funny, but then you could start getting paid up front for the year, like an insurance policy, to figure out if it doesn't snow, we get paid, and if it does snow, we may work our butts off, but it's going to be whatever it is. So we were able to get the money in, so then they could say, okay, here's what the thing is. And then you had to get up 4 a.m. in the morning, get out there and shovel it, walk people's dogs, same way. Kind of what is now an industry in Lake Tahoe is taking care of people's houses while they're out traveling.
Right.
And then taking care of the lawns, and it grew into this various businesses.
So whatever you could do to earn money, you were trying to figure out these niches to earn a living.
Yeah, and it was interesting because today you could never have done what I did because there's so many rules and regulations and things around that. You can't even have basically a lemonade stand anymore. But I was able to open a bank account as a 12, 13-year-old to be able to have payroll checks actually cut for my people. I was able to hire an accountant. I had my first attorney was one of the Laxalts, that was Ronald Reagan fame scenario. So Peter Laxalt was my attorney, and that was all before I was 18.
Wow. Okay, that's big time. So if you don't mind, how old would you say you were when you became financially independent, as we define it?
Well, the fun part of that is there's been a few different times that I wasn't.
Okay, where you start again.
Where I had to start over again.
Yeah.
We joke about a scenario. I was just actually speaking at Genius Network of how one investment lost me $400 million. So, and as my wife reminds me, you have to have $400 million to lose $400 million.
Right.
But, and that investment very well. That is an interesting piece. But first time that I had really made significant money, I was 24.
Okay.
And then again at 32. And then
which industries, if you don't mind me breaking this down?
Mostly financial services.
Okay, so like mortgages, mortgage financing?
No, so the first one was I was at Wells Fargo Bank
Okay.
and then took that money and was investing in other businesses.
Okay.
And my definition of wealth was pretty simple on the financial side, was when my money earned as much money as I needed to live for my needs and wants.
Yeah.
Most of my wants anyway.
Yeah.
And so that then if I had that, then I considered that as independent.
Sure.
And so at 24, I'd been able to earn enough remarkably through financial sales at Wells Fargo Bank,
Wow.
which was a totally different company than it is today.
Yeah.
But I was the youngest vice president in the company's history, before I was 24, and had left the bank at that point to start a new venture.
Very good. Wow. And you've been in a lot of ventures.
Ventures.
I'm familiar with some of them later in your life. What would you say for the entrepreneurs that are listening? Does it really matter what the venture is, as long as it's legal and appropriate? Is there some that are more entertaining to you as an entrepreneur and some that are just kind of boring and you will never do those again?
So I love boring businesses to invest in when the founders know that business inside and out.
Yeah.
And there are so many great boring businesses that are incredibly profitable people. And there are businesses. So we have a friend that is exiting a company right now. His nickname is the Label Czar.
Okay.
And I joke about it. This is an oversimplification of it. But essentially the car seats that are made have his stickers, labels on those car seats.
Interesting.
That's his business.
He's putting, so basically these things may all be made by the same manufacturer, and the label of Gerber or whatever, Play School or whatever the label
seven
is.
labels that the government requires to be on a car seat.
Wow, the stickers.
Yes,
Okay.
those are the stickers
He's
that go
making
on there.
those.
And so that's
Wow.
a business. And another client that we had, her grandfather had created the mechanism that was the door lock mechanism on the original cars. So hundreds of millions of dollars. You see from these boring businesses, you're like, how does that happen? The other ones are, people that everything that we teach for founders is being able to articulate the problem you solve. Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
whether it's intellectual capital or it's actually hard, table,
Yeah.
it's about solving a problem for someone.
Right.
And then when you can articulate that, which is really through the gift of sales and persuasion and such, but when you can articulate that problem you solve, that's where you build wealth.
Got it. Okay, so you would say that's one of the attributes of wealth building or creating financial independence, the ability to articulate the actual problem you're solving.
Yeah, and it's got to be a big market.
Yeah.
If it's a small market, then you can create a big market out of it, such as Starbucks was able to.
Right.
The little neighborhood coffee store, and all of a sudden, or McDonald's was able to.
And they scaled it
Right,
into
they scaled it into something else.
the
scenario.
suburban green apron experience. Right.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Facebook was about a dating app at Harvard.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't expected that it was gonna
Hot
go
or not.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't
Comparing faces. Yeah, that's right. Facebook.
Yeah.
Comparing faces. So let's get into these attributes. You'll know well the ones you possess, but what do you think of the common ones that those who arrive at the destination of financial freedom, what are the attributes? So I think you were sharing with me one right before we turned on the lights in here. But I want to hear about all of the attributes that you believe are necessary to adapt to in order to achieve success.
It's very rare, and I want to differentiate. Financial success is not the only wealth.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know a fair amount of people that have financial success are incredibly unhappy.
But for sure.
And miserable lives and nothing that we would compare as successful. So wealth is a lot more than that. And it doesn't have to be family, but that's a big part of it for many of us.
Yeah.
So the wealthy for me generally are extremely curious. And they're constantly learning something.
Okay.
So they get around people that oftentimes are smarter than them in whatever it is that they want to learn. They very rarely think they're the smartest one in the room.
They're feeding their curiosity.
They're feeding that, and it's an endless
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah, it doesn't stop.
Through their 80s, through
Right.
their 90s.
So
It does
AI
not
is like
stop.
a total blessing to a curious person. Yeah.
I have laughed with my kids about wanting Jarvis for so long.
Yeah.
Or when we grew up with Star Trek and looking at that and saying, man, I just would love to be able to ask
Yes.
and have that data
Yeah.
because I just lived in the libraries with encyclopedias
Yes.
and books
Yeah.
and finding, I think one of the things that I was most blessed with was being poor.
Yeah.
And being cold because
Yeah.
my friends weren't. My friends' family, they were very wealthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I watched, and in that case, back in the 70s, it was all dads for the most part.
Yeah.
There was a couple of moms, and then I had a couple sisters that were entrepreneurs, but it was mostly all dads. And the ones that were there were the ones that owned the companies and were entrepreneurs building something.
Yeah.
And they were curious, they were solving problems, they were creating jobs for people. And I said, yeah. And I heard a term that said, free enterprise, and that to me just stuck, that was free enterprise saves the world.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. I mean, capitalism saved more people from poverty than any other model ever. Yeah, and that'll be the case forever. Just no other way to do it than through free markets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to this idea of entrepreneurial curiosity. Would you say that if you're not curious, you may not get there?
I just don't know many people that don't have an inherent curiosity. And then my wife will tell me, well, you just don't get around those people.
Right. They're not in your
They
circle.
exist.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I know a few. Yeah.
And so I just don't see curiosity about something.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter what it is,
Right.
because you can become a millionaire doing scrapbooking.
Yeah, that's right.
You build the
Yeah.
service, you teach people how to do it because you super love it. I can know millionaires on the ski hill, even though skiing doesn't pay squat.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is that you can, whatever your passion is, you can get curious, and then you could create what problem needs to be solved out of this.
Yes.
And then that's the model, is what problem needs to be solved?
Yeah.
How do we solve it? If we solve it, is it a big market? And if we solve it, is there a barrier to entry for other people to do the same thing we're doing?
Right.
That's basically the persuasiveness of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's a key factor to building a business. It's a key factor to getting wealth.
Well, that's a really good sequence of tips you just gave there. Let's unpack that just a little bit. So number one, curiosity personally.
Yes.
Curiosity personally, and then take that curiosity and solve a problem that perhaps you have or you see others having. Solve that problem, and then figure out what the total addressable market of that problem is. How big is this market? If I solved it, is it just for 9 people, or if I solved it, would the universe benefit from it, like an iPhone? I mean, Steve Jobs was busy, not just curious, but solving a problem. We wanted our music and our phone in our pocket. That was his simple idea, right? But it was a problem because we had to use other devices to hear our music. Yeah. So we had this phone device. We then had a different device we had to buckle onto us somewhere to hear our music. He was trying to merge them together so one device, his device, could solve that problem. And now what do we got? 1.8 billion people use that device to solve that problem.
Many times Apple has more money in the bank than the U.S. government.
Right, for sure. Okay, so we're curious. We solve a problem. We determine through our curiosity, how big is the market if I solve this problem? And then what was the other?
The last one is there's some kind of moat. There's some kind of
barrier
protection
to
in there,
entry.
Barrier to entry.
Right.
It could be a large amount of capital. It could be an education. It could be licensing. It could
Patent.
be intellectual property.
Yeah.
And there's never been, Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach said this the other day, and I haven't validated it, but it just sounded awesome. So Dan has a lot of IP.
Yeah.
Putting all the books out, and Ben Hardy's another one that's doing that with Dan. And Dan said, as soon as you get that, that's worth $1 million. So meaning you can actually take that and get that valued. But you've got this intellectual property, whether it's a trademark or a patent or various things. Well, and you think of how many patents did Steve Jobs have outside of Apple?
Yes.
Outside of Apple.
Yeah.
The glass staircase when you go into an Apple store.
Right.
Steve Jobs.
He patented it.
So it's all of us have ideas. Some people sit there in the shower and they come up with an idea, and then 5 years later they see someone else bring that idea to market, and they're like, I had that idea.
Most have done this.
It's the execution of that idea.
Right.
This is a problem that got solved, and if I solve this, the market will want that.
And then I love what you added, the ability to articulate or make intelligible the solution. Make it clear what the what problem am I solving, and here's the clarity to that.
Yeah, and you know what, James? That's actually a little bit further down the pathway.
Okay.
It's articulate. For raising capital in particular, or growing a business, what's important is you get followers when you articulate the problem.
Right. Right.
You don't get followers because you articulate the solution.
Right.
You get followers because you articulate the problem, and the follower understands that you understand their pain.
Right.
So you repel the people that don't have that problem.
That's
they don't
right.
care.
Yeah, they're not interested.
They're not interested.
not
Well,
a
that's
fit.
great. You don't want to spend the time with them anyway.
That's right.
So you attract the people that understand that problem exists, that exists for them or exists for a family member, and so you're able to articulate it that fast.
Yes.
And then you want to see if solving that problem actually is a big market. You don't even have to first figure out how to solve the problem. You just have to figure out is that a big problem? Do other people have this problem? And then through that solving of the problem, is there a way to protect how we solve it?
Right. The barrier.
The barrier.
moat.
So on the other side, as we'll say, is the ease of understanding the solution is the second axis of that, that's part of that, which is, do you have the right team? And then the ease of understanding the solution is, this is it. So you go back to Jobs, it's 10,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah. Right.
What he didn't even know, though, what's more valuable than the music is the camera.
Yeah.
That wasn't the initial rollout.
It wasn't even
I
part
don't
of it.
want to lose. I don't care about the music now. I care about that I have my camera so I can take
Me
pictures.
too. Me too. Share the experience
Yeah.
with my friends. Yeah. Okay. So this is very insightful. I know you personally invite a handful of people, maybe once a quarter, up to Lake Tahoe currently, and basically they need to be a founder and they need to be on the road to success if they're not already successful. And you actually teach these folks, and you correct anything I'm saying that's wrong, but this is my understanding. You actually teach these folks, almost mentor them into fundraising and some of these steps that you're training us here today on how to be successful as a founder. Have I got it right?
Yeah, very. That's great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what we do is I just want to clarify one thing. We work with both founders and founder investors.
Okay.
And I say that because what I have found over my lifetime, and you saw this in working with us in the past, is when founders make money and they exit,
Yeah.
they then have a new problem. They need to learn how to earn money on their money instead of their effort.
Right.
And that's an entirely different skill set.
Yeah.
So what most founders do is they immediately find the new founders that they identify like them, or at least they think they are, and they invest in them without a framework. So we help both the founders that are growing their companies and help see around the corners, and then we cultivate this relationship with other founders that have exited and are investing in those type of founders.
Oh,
so
great.
it's the model of both, and
Okay.
it's important to teach both because the frameworks are actually really similar.
Yes.
It's a founder should really not back just that other founder. They need to back because they understand the problem.
Right.
And they've got to have that core value within them
Right,
as well.
right.
So yes, so we teach it quarterly up at Lake Tahoe. We then have a program where we'll mentor specific founders. Generally, it's the founders
Okay.
that have something that's going to grow at least to 10 million and have some kind of formal, or in many cases, it's the founders that have grown to 10 million and have hit a ceiling in complexity, and they don't know where to
Yeah.
go next. They
Yeah.
use their credit cards, they use their lines of credit, they borrowed from friends and family.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to an A round in a venture capital specifically.
Yeah.
They may need bank financing, they may need SBA, whatever it is. It's that capital stack that we help them with.
Very
and it's called the
good.
Catledge Summit.
Is it anything like this happening anywhere else?
Not that I know of. It kind of
Yeah.
happens a little bit on TV.
Okay.
So what ours is it can actually teach people to be sharks and to be, for Shark Tank.
Oh, I got you.
So it's the people that have, every one of those people are founders
Yeah, that's right.
that are investing in that.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is the ideal investor for a founder generally.
Okay.
It's not the kids out of McKinsey, not to shake that, and we have plenty of that as well.
Sure.
They go work for a VC
Yeah.
or a PE firm. It's the ones that actually have been there before. That's going to be the early stage investors in many cases for founders.
That's who's filling the seats at
Yeah.
your Founders Edge Summit.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to attending myself, and I look forward to learning a bunch about this. Anything, I know you've got one coming up. Just maybe while we've got you here, tell us the date of that. Tell us maybe the days it's covering, and what I would need to do if I was interested in being a part of that.
So I'll tell you a tool we've got available. So
Okay.
before anybody even decides if they want to go to that, the dates are October 28th through 30th.
Okay.
It's a very select, small group, but people can
Yeah.
come in there. But even if you don't think you're ready for it, no matter where you are on a stage of investing, you can go to Founders Office, which is Founders-Office, which
Okay.
is horrible, I know, but it's Founders-Office.
Okay.
And on that page, there's a place where you can load your pitch deck.
Okay.
Now, there's so many things out on the internet right now that say, hey, we'll help you build a pitch deck. This is how you raise capital.
Right.
I have never once learned or saw a pitch deck that raised capital. What I have seen is pitch decks that kill the raise of the capital.
Right.
Because they're not congruent with the story.
Right.
So what we do is we help, and we do it very quickly with our team. We will evaluate your pitch deck. It's within 24 hours. You'll be on a 10-minute call with one of our team. There's no pressure or anything else, nothing
is
that they're going to do.
great.
So you can do that. The other side of that is, though, if you're an investor and someone has given you a pitch deck,
Yes.
you can run that pitch deck through our system, and we will evaluate it on that method too.
Oh,
Is
interesting.
this something you
As
should
an
be
investor.
looking at?
Got
We
it.
won't give you financial advice specifically, but what we will do is say, these are the pieces you should be looking at.
Got it.
So from that, then people can evaluate, is this something that they want to do? And your people that watch your show, they get to do that for free.
Yeah.
They just go to the founders office,
Okay.
and it's right there on that page.
.com.
.com. Yeah.
.com.
And so that's the first place to look at it. And then for anybody that else is, they're your friends, they contact you, they reach out to us, and of course, your
Send
friends
them
would be
your way.
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. I've sent a few people your way because I just have such confidence in your business acumen. I mean, I fashion myself as an entrepreneur, a successful business guy. I have started and exited many businesses myself. But Tom, let's face it, you are at a very different level. And I think the people who are watching are getting a master's, PhD level class in how to be an entrepreneur, be successful, and ultimately one day be financially free. There's no doubt about it.
Well, ideally be wealthy in all areas. So
Yeah.
we really work on it. So one of the challenges we have, James, and you'd recognize this because you've seen it, is, and again, all my life I'm this founder, and then I become an academic. So now in academia, you got to name stuff, right? So
Yes.
so in doing what we see is there's this syndrome that happens, and we call it the founder's isolation paradox. Founder's isolation paradox.
Okay.
And what it is when they've reached about 10 to 25 million. They've got all the team around them. They now have their attorneys, they have their accountants, their spouse probably helped them start the company.
Yeah.
They have a C-level suite starting. They're not really there yet.
Yeah.
They have the bankers on the one side. And at 2 a.m., the founder is still isolated in making decisions.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we help founders with. That's why we have the founders
that's
office.
good.
So we're a family office, and this is an offshoot of that family office. So the Brayhan Group's our family office. This is a Brayhan venture called the Founders Office, and it's
it.
to help the founders through that, see around the corners, see the problems, and essentially have a founder's advocate.
Yeah.
Because their attorney's not their advocate.
No.
Their attorney works for actually the company. They don't realize that.
Yeah, that's right.
The C-suite is working for the company.
Yeah.
At times, they're often at odds with what are the founders' goals.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's where we help them get through that.
And do you see founders surrounding themselves with folks that may just be too agreeable?
Well, so here's one of the biggest challenges. I was just talking about this with a guy who owns one of the professional baseball teams.
Yeah.
Is that when the companies are at that level, the only people that are around them are people that are agreeable.
Right.
And there's a reason.
Yeah.
Because if that founder loses it, he or she can fire them.
Yeah.
They really control that person's rice bowl. So they aren't like Seneca. They
Yeah.
aren't willing to give the truth advice
Yeah.
and be willing to go back to poverty.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to find advocates. So what we do is when we make investments or we lead companies through this, and we generally take a seat on a board.
Yeah.
We are the founder's advocate. We make it very clear to the board.
Yeah.
We are here as a founder's vote
Yeah.
scenario. But that does not mean the founder has our vote.
No.
Because we will save that founder from themselves
Yes.
relative to that.
Yeah.
But we're here to make sure the founders, don't lose their companies.
All the founders, the reason I even brought the question up is all the founders that I know that are friends of mine. These are golf buddies. These are folks who live in the neighborhoods I live in. I find that they're more comfortable with folks around them who agree with them. And they're not at all comfortable with resistance. Matter of fact, it's disturbing to the ethos of their organization. And so I wanted to address that because I know there's lots of folks who are in the middle of some climb. They're building something significant. And this is one of those rungs on the ladder where you've got to be careful because the old Henry Ford, I think it was in one of Henry Ford's biographies, where they were interviewing Henry directly about his success and what he thought the key to his success was, right? If there was one thing he thought the key was. And he said, yeah, I think the key for me is everybody, from the windshield guy to the tire guy to the engine maker, he says, I'm not as smart as any of these guys. These are engineers at the highest level. They're literally doing things that I don't actually know how they're doing it, okay? And if they started explaining it to me, I'm not so sure I could follow. He says, but what I'm great at, and this is the key to my success, is I'm great at pulling these people together and not being threatened by them and allowing them to bring their genius to Ford Motor Company. And it's that genius, collective genius, that actually builds these great cars that everybody's buying. He says, so I'm just basically the ringleader of a circus. And I'm just trying to find the smartest, craziest geniuses I can. And that's how they built the tire companies. That's how they built the windshield companies. He was willing to not have guys that built glass the way he could conceive building glass, not build tires the way he thought tires should be built, but let their ambition and their ingenuity run free and just bring it back to Ford, please. That was it.
That's it.
Yeah. So I find why is that so difficult?
A lot of times, entrepreneurs make very quick decisions, and they perceive that quick decision making makes them brighter than other people in the room. And
Their decisiveness?
They're decisive. They move forward. They don't necessarily track their losses, which is a distinction for founders, right?
Sure.
They forget all the times
They
that
track
they
their
have.
wins.
Yeah, they track their wins. They
Right.
think they're the smartest person in the room.
Right.
Say that they're always right, type scenario.
Yeah.
So
And that's being affirmed. That's being
it's
confirmed by
totally
the team.
being, the market's there, people are there, and
And I'm making more money than you are. Therefore, what are you going to argue with me? I'm out earning you, so I don't want to get a lot of resistance.
and I can
here.
fire you.
Yeah, right.
At the
and
end
I
of the
can fire
day,
you.
yeah,
Right.
right. Your whole family's,
Yeah, it's dependent upon you agreeing with me.
yeah.
Right.
So it's been going on for
This is human nature.
This is human
yeah,
nature,
this is
right?
human nature.
So that is why you have generally Larry Ellison. Last 2 weeks ago, my daughter pinned me one day and she said, "Dad, $100 billion in one day."
That's right.
And first of all, so because you're a money show, I got to tell you
Yeah.
this. So we did a perspective. She says that's so much money, and he grew to $400 billion in wealth. And I said, so honey, I'm going to give you just a little number because I know you know numbers. She's got an MBA
Yeah,
and she's
sure.
worked in our finance
Yeah.
company forever.
Yeah.
I said, but the difference of $1 million to $1 billion, $1 million in seconds is 2 weeks. $1 billion in seconds is 32 years, roughly. Okay. So $1 million to $1 billion, because we throw out billions a lot.
I know it.
100 billion is 3,200 years. That's the life of a sequoia tree, right? Our biggest trees, our biggest living organism on Earth right now.
400 billion.
400 billion is 32,000 years. Essentially, that puts us back to when we moved from being hunter-gatherers to agriculture, right? I mean, we're a little rough on that number,
Yeah.
but that's the difference between someone who's striving to be a millionaire and someone who's got 400 billion if you put it in the manner of time, right? So he didn't write the code.
Right. He did
What
not.
he did
not.
he was brilliant at knowing the location down in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, was so close to these other universities that they could find the brightest and best in the world and recruit them.
Yeah.
And recruit them and recruit them.
Yeah.
And then he found great salespeople and they could sell and sell and sell. And then they found a finance model and a product that people, once they got it, couldn't leave it.
That's right.
And
Stack
so-
their platform on it.
And now you get another partnership with NVIDIA, who does roughly 85% of all the chips that drive what will be AI.
Yeah.
And you got a recipe.
That's right. Yeah. Elon Musk says his mentor is Larry Ellison. That's his mentor.
So was Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
They walked along the beach a lot.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So ultimately, Larry Ellison's a great example. I love that you brought that up because it's a current example. I mean, the man's 81 years old.
No one knows who he is. That's
I had
20,
somebody-
30 years old. They don't know who he is.
I had somebody the other day said, "Who the hell's Larry Ellison?" Somehow he's involved in my TikTok. And I said, "You don't know who Larry Ellison is. You better be glad he's involved in your TikTok."
Our life.
Yes.
He has been the longest holding richest man on the planet.
sure.
And people don't know. And
That's
so it's
right.
so fast how you can lose the perch, right?
Right.
I mean,
And for
scenario.
30 minutes, he was the richest man on earth last week when he moved
Yeah.
that 100 million.
Yeah.
Now, Elon is since eclipsed with the Tesla movement. But yeah, Larry, I used to read, and this is, I think the audience should hear this. I used to read the Forbes 400, the November issue every year, were the stories of all the folks who had become billionaires. And it was how they did it. And it was their family story. And it was the self-made people that had become billionaires. I just loved reading that.
Yeah.
And I would get literally the physical version of that Forbes 400 every year. And it used to be only 400 people. And I remember about 250 of them were
They
billionaires.
weren't all billionaires.
That's right.
Yeah.
250 of them were billionaires. The rest were literally 100 millionaires.
Yeah.
But I love the stories. And of course, Larry Ellison was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've moved into an era where there's lots of influencers that are influencing, but maybe not some of these practices you're referring to maybe not doing it. They're talking about it, but maybe not doing it.
I agree. So, I get a coach for everything. So it doesn't matter what I do. So I decided like 8 years ago that I'm not doing enough yoga. I know how to do yoga, but the best thing I can do is have somebody that's an accountability coach knock on my door at 6 a.m. every day.
We're doing yoga.
And we're doing yoga.
Yeah.
Right? And so now it's just like, I'm
Get up,
doing yoga.
Tom.
I'm
We're doing yoga.
I'm not getting interrupted by other things. I'm going to do yoga because I don't want to disappoint him. Well, so I also have a physical therapist that I see 3 times a week. Great guy, former snow sports guy, doctor out of Berkeley. Anyway, we're talking, and one of these other snow sports people, who is she's not snow sports. She is a influencer.
Oh, okay.
Big influencer, beautiful gal.
Yeah.
Hurts her back, and she is in her 30s now, and says, "I can't let any of my followers know." And I'm like, no. The best thing you could do is let your followers know.
Yes.
Be congruent with who you are. Don't be that person. Don't show up at the hotel, say how great it is, and then go stay in the motel down the street.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so that's the problem. That's the problem I find in our space too. We've got so many people that are telling how to do this.
Yes.
And they haven't done it.
I see it everywhere.
They haven't lived through it.
Yeah.
Candace won't hire someone that doesn't tell a bloody story.
Yeah.
Meaning, if they haven't been bloodied in the marketplace, she won't hire them.
Yeah, you didn't mean, that wasn't an adjective bloody story. You mean a story filled with blood.
Blood,
right.
Blood.
Yeah.
Tell me when you got bloodied and you had the resilience to get through it and start over and smile and keep moving.
Yeah, give me the suffering story, because that's where greatness is born, is in the suffering. Yeah,
it is. It's where we learn.
Yeah, as we get close to wrapping up here, I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do want to know, you did some work with Harvard, and I know you went back to college. You've got lots of degrees, and you can name them if you want. Your life as a man, to me, is more powerful than all these degrees. Your role model, the family man you are, the person you are, is what impresses me. But I do want you to go back through your affiliation with Harvard, and they tasked you to do something specific with a business partner of yours. It was to build a document on a specific strategy for business owners. Walk us through that.
So I was teaching at Harvard. It wasn't actually Harvard who structured that. And so, yes, I through my degrees, I went to graduate school at Harvard and actually got the good fortune to teach internationally through there, as well as at Harvard campus on international finance. And it's partly because I wrote a book to help executives understand their financial statements better, and Harvard got that. And so that's a fast story. So I'm teaching there. I had exited company, and my mentor back from Wells Fargo Bank, a guy named Bill Fisher, was teaching part-time at Stanford.
Got it.
And so the dean of the B School at Stanford was our boss from Wells Fargo.
Oh, wow.
So he'd retired from Wells Fargo, went to be the dean, and he said, "Can you put together one of these 3-day workshops on how to raise capital?" Combined, Bill and I had done about $1.5 billion in total early stage capital raising. Now I'm a little more than $3.2 billion, 500 ventures, right?
Yeah.
So, but at the time we did that. That led us to create what's called the 6 Secrets of Early Stage Capital. It got published as a book. We did World Bank stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But it is the precursor to what has become my now work, which is called the 6 Keys of Capital.
Okay.
And the 6 Secrets of Raising Capital is one of those keys, because it takes you through that process. But it's specifically that framework, and it's the framework that does start everything that we do. But it was great. It's wonderful to have your boss and your boss's boss do that.
Oh, for sure. Wow, what a cool time that had to be, putting that together and then teaching it to so many. Well, I'm looking forward to attending this summit.
Great.
Founder's Edge. And I look forward to, I know you've got a panel of several people going to be communicating there.
Yeah, and it really is. So think about that founder's isolation paradox, and it's working through that. So because we are a founder's advocate, we're not just there to give them the tools to then go, make huge mistakes. We're actually there to help build a lifelong entrepreneurial life and
resource.
Business. Yeah, because it's not just about getting that one investor and take it forward. It's about building that whole ecosystem, and how does it structure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tom, you've done great work. You've got an incredible background of success. Yeah, but what I love about Tom, you're a great friend.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, I want to say this. I've had my own share of suffering, and you were there through it, and I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for being here, bud.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.